Hi, welcome to Chard Review. After having his island destroyed by a meteor shower, a dinosaur who was raised by lemurs embarks on a journey where he will have to deal with various prehistoric predators until he finds a new home for his family. Today we will recap the story of the 2000 movie Dinosaur. In a small breeding area, a mother iguanodon is protecting her nest when a young Parasaurolophus enters the jungle chasing a butterfly and comes face to face with a Carnotaurus, one of the largest predators of the Cretaceous. Trapped, the little dinosaur begins to cut a path where it can escape from the animal, but ends up leading it straight to the breeding area, causing the numerous females to have to abandon their eggs and run for their lives. While everyone is running away, the Carnotaurus still manages to capture a Pachyrhinosaurus and devours it in a heartbeat with its super sharp teeth. During the confusion, almost all of the eggs of the mother iguanodon were trampled by the predator, but one of them managed to get out unharmed and is caught by an oviraptor that takes it to the other side of the jungle to eat it. But when it finally goes to make its meal, it is found by another of its kind that begins to dispute for the food. In the middle of the fight, they end up letting the egg fall into the river, which is soon swallowed by a prehistoric fish. But since it doesn't like the taste, the animal drops the object and a tyrant Adon picks it up, taking the future baby even further away from its mother even after traveling a good few miles. The flying reptile arrives on an isolated island but ends up being attacked by some birds that cause him to drop the egg in the middle of the lemur's home. After the fall, a family of primates finds the object and approaches it carefully. But when Pleo gets close enough to realize that it is really a baby, her father Yar thinks it is carnivorous and starts warning them about the dangers of Dinosaur can bring, forbidding his children to go near it. Despite the old man's stories, Cleo is not convinced that that animal could be dangerous and decides to give it to Yard to get rid of it. But when he sees how cute the baby iguanodon is, the old lemur does not have the courage to do any harm, and returns it to Pleo, who decides to adopt it and gives it the name Alida, promising to raise it so that it can live in harmony with the rest of the island. A few years later, Alida is already a young adult, but he still continues to play hunting games with the lemur infants. When they finally finished playing, Cleo appears and asks Alida to go and call Zanny for the courtship, an event where the males are supposed to try to attract the females for mating. As soon as she finishes giving the instructions, the iguanodon goes to the shore, where he finds the lemur practicing the most bizarre songs possible. After the horror show, Alida tells Zinni that everyone is waiting for him to begin the lecture that Yar always gives before the ceremony. As soon as Zinni arrives, everyone is finally reunited and the elder begins to give tips on how males can attract their partners, while Pleo advises females to choose good partners. With everything ready, the males jump on Alida's back, and he begins to parade in front of the girls, helping his fellow primates impress them with somersaults and various other acrobatics. When the first display is over, the males climb the trees from where they swing on vines until they are chosen by a female and finally assemble a couple. But when the ceremony is over, everyone is accompanied except Zinni. When Alida sees that he has been left alone, he approaches him to try to comfort his friend, but the lemur responds by saying that he is used to it and pretends not to care from a distance. Pleo sees Zinni's situation and says that Aldar's is even worse since there are no other iguanodons on the island, but while they are talking, a meteor shower begins to occur, creating a spectacular sight that catches everyone's attention. While everyone looks up into the sky believing they are at a safe distance, Yar sees that the birds are fleeing and starts sniffing for trouble in the air. Just then, a gigantic asteroid crashes very close to the island, creating a mushroom cloud with the explosion. A few seconds after impact, the shockwave finally reaches the island and almost sends them flying. While everyone is running away from the meteorites, Pleo starts screaming for her daughter Suri when she sees the girl on top of the tree, the mother. Steamer goes there to save her and jumps on Alida's back, who carries them trying to escape the island. Desperate, the iguanodon puts his entire family on his back and runs as fast as he can, but the meteors keep falling non-stop and the dinosaur is forced to dive into the ocean to escape. When he resurfaces, Alida sees his foster mother and the rest of his family being taken away by the current, but manages to swim fast enough to get them to land before it is too late. Rescued, they howl at the burning island in the distance, but since they are the only ones who survived, Alida says they must keep moving until they find a new home. To do this, the lemurs mount on the dinosaur's back and he begins to carry them across a desert. But halfway they hear strange sounds and decide to follow to find out where it comes from. As Alida approaches, he has his first encounter with other dinosaurs, but the velociraptors are not in the least bit welcoming and begin to corner the iguanodon, who is forced to run for his life and that of his family. Still, some of the predators manage to catch up with him and start attacking, but suddenly the animals give up the chase and leave just then. The whole herd of iguanodons come out of the fog and their leader bumps into Alida, knocking him to the ground while shouting at him to get out of the way, but the young dinosaur is so impressed that he can barely move while standing still. The dinosaur ends up bumping into an iguanodon named Nera who is along with the gang, but instead of getting out of the way, he stands still and ends up being run over by another Styracosaurus who knocks him flat on ground. Soon after getting up, the dinosaur is almost crushed by a female Brachiosaurus and finally reaches the end of the herd where the elderly Emma tells him to hurry if he doesn't want to be left behind. Upon hearing this, Yer tells Alida not to even think about joining the pack, but as the velociraptors again surround them, the dinosaur decides to run until he catches up with the rest of the herd. As soon as he joins the group, Kron and his right-hand Bruton decide to stop for the night to rest, and while he is looking for a place to sleep, Alida overhears the conversation of the two older dinosaurs and asks about the nest area they were talking about, but the ladies see the lemurs and wonder if they are some kind of. After Yara and Plio tell them about what happened on the island, the elderly female realizes that their pet has taken a liking to Alida and decides to join them since Baleen is also the last of her kind alive. With the alliance between the reptiles and the primates, Emma begins to tell Plio about the nest area, describing the place as a paradise that was unaffected by the meteors. But although the destination is great, the journey has not been easy at all. For not only is the path naturally long, but Kron, the leader of the gang, thinks he is always right and treats everyone with the greatest contempt, not caring if anyone is left behind. Unaware that they are talking about him, Kron passes by them, accompanied by Bruton, but instead of just letting them go, Alida decides to get their attention. Ask them to slow down so that everyone can keep up. Thinking that a bad idea. Kron replies that it would be dumb to let the weaker ones decide the speed, and warns Alida not to push his luck, already knowing that Kron won't change his mind. Emma tells the newcomers to bow their heads and obey if they want to remain in the safety of the gang, but also says that they are lucky that velociraptors are the only predators after them. After a good night's sleep, Zinni sees that Bruton is waking up the herd and decides to make Alida get up so they won't be left behind, but when he sees the behavior that the second leader of the herd is having, the lemur calls him ignorant and the commander ends up listening, thinking that it was Alida who said this brute and threatens them both and says that they should keep walking if they don't want to become food for velociraptors. But Zinni is not intimidated and starts joking with his nephew, saying that he has a crush on Kron's sister Nera. Before they continue, the leader of the herd orders everyone to stop and says that since there are new members in the group, it is important to make it clear that he will not tolerate any funny business and that anyone left behind will be abandoned to serve as a distraction. For the predators, with a dry ocean floor ahead of them, the group of dinosaurs continues to head towards a place that has water. But due to the extreme heat, Emma and Baleen, who are already older, become completely exhausted. Just then they pass a dinosaur carcass and Alida reminds them that the velociraptors are after them and that if they stop walking they will be the predators' next victims. In order not to become dinosaur dinner, the elderly dinosaur continued to follow the group, but a few hours later two colossal Carnotaurus find the carcass that the velociraptors were eating and begin to follow the gang's tracks. After almost 2 full days of travel, the group finally approaches the large lake where they always drank. But due to the extreme heat, the water has dried up and only the carcasses of the sea animals are left in the middle of the sand. Believing that the rain may have formed water somewhere else, Bruton asks what he should do in. Kron orders him to walk around with a scout looking for something to drink, but instead of giving them time to rest, the leader orders the herd to keep moving towards the nest area. Worried, Nira goes to her older brother and says that if they continue at this rate, they will lose more than half of the gang before they reach the goal, but Kron says he doesn't mind losing weak members and keeps walking. Exhausted, Emma falls to the ground completely without strength, as she says that there was always had water in this place. But while trying to lift her up, Alida sees that the ground where Bailing steps on becomes wet, and decides to dig a hole together with Zinni. After they reach a certain depth, the Iguanodon asks the Brachiosaurus to step with all its force into the hole, which causes a large amount of water to gush out from underground, finally having something to drink. Alida lets Emma quench her thirst and calls the dinosaurs who are leaving to do the same. But Kron gets ahead of everyone and tries to drink everything himself, preventing the weaker ones from reaching the water. While Alida and Nira are outraged by this attitude, Bruton and the scout are searching for a lake when they hear the menacing roars of a Carnotaur. As soon as he hears the noise, the vice commander says they must return, but they are soon attacked by predators that devour the scout with a single bite. Back at the lake, Suri and Alida help two Iguanodon babies find water, and Mira shows up in time to see the scene, saying that this is a great attitude and that several of them have lost their parents. Seizing the opportunity, Alida introduces himself and they begin to talk about everything that is happening during the trip, causing Nara to question her brother's principles of survival. Upon seeing this scene, Pleo wakes up her father while the dinosaur couple is trying to get water, and the two are happy for Alida but can't stop thinking about Zinni, the last stranded in the family. While Kron watches his sister with his rival, Bruton arrives at camp badly bruised and tells him has been attacked by Carnotaurus, but instead of showing concern for his right hand, the leader of the pack fights with him for luring the predators to the rest of the herd, knowing that it is only a matter of time before they are reached. Kron wakes up the other dinosaurs and tells them that they must leave immediately, but Alida says that they cannot leave anyone behind and shouts for the rest of the gang to wait, causing the leader to lose patience for good and advances on him, saying that he will eliminate him if he tries to interfere one more time. Alida then hurries back to fetch Emma and Balin, who cannot keep up with the herd, forcing them to follow alone while the herd moves on without them. During the night, the Carnotaurus finally arrive at the camp and drink from the water Bailing has dug, but it won't be long before they find the group of dinosaurs and primates left behind in the middle of the rocks. Emma hears a roar and starts to retreat, thinking it is from one of the predators, but Alida manages to get everyone to keep calm and discovers that it is Bruton who is making the noises as he has been abandoned by Kron. Seeing the situation, Alida decides that he will help him, but the Iguanodon says that he doesn't need mercy. And the leader of the new group says that he will not disturb him. At this point Alida sees that the rain is approaching and decides to spend the night in the cave, saying that if he changes his mind, Bruton will be welcome to stay with them. When the storm starts, the leader of the new gang comes out of the cave and invites him in once more, helping him to get up and accompanying him to the entrance. Upon seeing Bruton's wounds, Pleo goes to him and offers him a medicinal plant that they used on their old island. But the dinosaur rejects it, saying that he has already accepted his destiny, and the female replies that this is a choice, not a fate, convinced by the lemur brute, and accepts the medicine and begins to recover. But in the middle of the night they were reached by the Carnotaurus, and both Alida and Bruton begin to wake the others so they can hide. But the little pet makes a noise that draws the attention of the predators. To make matters worse, while she is walking, Bailing bumps into a rock that falls to the ground and rolls out of the cave, revealing exactly where they are. Curious, the Carnotaurs poke their heads in and saw Alida beginning to chase him. To save himself, the Iguanodon tries to run into the cave. But Emma is too slow and blocks the passage, allowing the predators to catch him. Seeing this, Bruton decides to help and stays behind to face them, managing to land a blow so strong that it hurls one of the predators against the wall, causing the cave to begin to collapse as the rocks fall. Bruton tries to run to the rest of the group while Alida calls out to him, but unfortunately the new leader can do nothing to save him and the rocks crush the Iguanodon because of the collapse. One of the carbonators also loses his life, but the other manages to get out from under the rocks and walks away while roaring at Alada's group. After escaping, the gang keeps moving forward until they reach a dead end, but Zinni feels a breeze and manages to find a gap amidst the rocks. At that moment, Alada begins to strike the wall, trying to open passage, but the rocks begin to give way and close the small hole that Zinni has found. Frustrated, Alada gives up everything and says that they will not survive, but Bailing is outraged by his change of attitude and begins to complain, saying that she did not go through all this to die inside a cave. She lifts her gigantic body and drops all her weight at once onto the rocks, finally managing to open a passage with Alada's help, and lucky for them, this cave was a direct shortcut to the nest area. However, while everyone is enjoying the richness of the place, Alada realizes that the rest of the gang has not yet arrived in. Emma sees that the entrance they used to use is blocked. When he learns of this, the iguanodon does not hesitate and rushes back to warn the others before it is too late. Even if Crone tries to attack him on the other side of the rock wall, Nira suggests they turn around. Look for another entrance, but her older brother doesn't listen, saying that the only solution is to climb and pushes two babies to try first. At this point, Alada finally catches up with the gang and tells them that he has found another way, as well as telling them that the remaining Carnotaur is heading straight for them, but Crone refuses to believe him and insists that the babies climb soon. Despite this, the whole gang decides to follow Alada, which arouses the fury of Crone, who attacks his rival. He puts his teeth into his neck and knocks him to the ground, but the young iguanodon manages to throw him away and finally get up on his feet. Alada manages to knock the enemy down, but Crone decides to play dirty and throws a handful of dirt in the challenger's eyes to blind him. However, just as his brother is about to deliver the final blow, Nira manages to stop him and helps Alada to his feet, deciding to believe him with the fight over. The two of them leave for the shortcut while being followed by the whole gang, but the Carnotaur finally catches up with them and Crone yells that Alada brought him there on purpose. Seeing that everyone is backing away, the iguanodon says that they should stick together. For if they separate, the predator will be able to take them down. Determined to face the danger, Alada begins to roar at the predator that continues advancing towards them. But when he sees that the entire pack is standing still and ready to face him, he begins to retreat, opening the way for the herd to walk towards the cave. At that moment, the predator sees Crone alone trying to climb the rocks, and starts running towards him, but Nira and Alada decide to help him while they are not there. The former leader tries to knock the enemy out with blows from his powerful tail, but the Carnotaur manages to land a bite and his spine and throw him away, leaving him completely out of combat. At that moment, Nero finally catches up to them and lands a headbutt on the predator, but is soon hit and immobilized to save his beloved. Alada strikes a blow with his tail at the Carnotaurus, who soon returns the blow, but the iguanodon manages to push him to the edge, causing the predator to plummet from a gigantic height and finally be defeated. After the fight is over, Nira goes to see if her brother is okay, but unfortunately Crone did not survive and Alada tries to console his new partner. Before they move on, when they finally reach the nest area, the whole pack begins to roar, celebrating that they have found a new home and that their journey is finally over. In this place, Zinni finally manages to win over some females and the iguanodons have their first offspring, but most of all, they all live together as one family in this dinosaur paradise. If you like the video, please like and subscribe for more movie review. Thank you for watching.